Giving up the raiders and dying on the eve of recluse. I posed for the sickly male second. Fake pregnancy certificate. Create a car accident. A corpse. Want to make him difficult for a lifetime. But I did not expect 3 years later. System pumping card bugs. And then stuck me in front of Jason. In the nightclub room. He leans on the sofa in a lazy and diffuse manner, exuding an uninviting atmosphere around him. The moment he saw me, he raised his hand and pushed away the wine handed to him by the people beside him. Starry eyes stared at me. One word. Do not drink. Today to prepare for pregnancy. The hand that handed me the wine froze in my draft for a moment. After realizing this, he put down the glass and lightly laughed and joked. I don't know who is so lucky to be in Mr. Jiang's eyes. The beautiful women who stood obediently instantly came to life. Each of them held their heads high and displayed their advantages. They hoped that they could hook up with Jason and fly high. But Jason's gaze with hatred always stopped on me. Thin lips slightly opened. Long time no see. Mia. Jason's tone of voice calling my name was not considered kind. I didn't say anything. Instead, I mentally shouted, System. You better give me a reasonable explanation as to why you pulled me back into this world without my consent. Facing my questioning, System first stammered. Eventually the tone swung. Jason is smart. He sensed my existence when you were raiding. After you left, he threatened me with the lives of most of the people in the book to bring you back. What can I do? You can go to death. I replied. System's silence was deafening. A long time it opened its mouth. I am not human. But you really dog. Mechanical voice hard to hear out a few points of displeasure. But I am more annoyed than it. I've already given up the raiders and got your permission. So Jason going crazy has nothing to do with me at all. And you're not in a position to pull me back. The words just fell. System suddenly stormed out. It started its output with an electric voice. I just brought you back. So what? So what? So what? The way you set Jason up on your way out. It directly made him kill crazy. This system arranged many people to take your place to save Jason. And all of them failed. You do your own sins to deal with yourself. If you fail, this system is going to be kicked out of the System Association. So let's all die together. I frowned in displeasure. Still want to continue to break up with System. But the thoughts were pulled back by Jason. Get out. Jason's voice was oppressive. The beauties were all disgruntled. But they still know how to walk towards the door one by one without stopping for a moment. I followed at the end of the line and also went out. But not surprisingly, I was stopped. When I looked up, the person who stopped me was an old acquaintance. Jason's good brother Evan. When Jason was still in school, he was ostracized because of his sick mom, abusive dad, and poor family. Evan was the only one who never gave up on him. Whenever he had a bite to eat, Evan would share half of it with Jason. Evan also blocked half of the punches that landed on Jason. It can be said that there are few people who love Jason more than Evan. But at the same time, it can also be said that no one hated me more than Evan. Because in those years, I followed System's instructions to save delinquents, and repeatedly stepped in to change the course of Jason's life, tripping over his chosen path of no return, trying to pull him back on track. Uncontrollably inflicted a lot of damage on him during that time, especially giving up the raiders' fake pregnancy and dying to get away. In those hours when Soul didn't come home, I saw it with my own eyes. The unstoppable Jason. He cried until he couldn't get up from his knees, holding the test results. And Evan was right there with him. Maybe that was when Jason awake and to his conscience. But the road he was on was already impossible to turn back. And he was destined to be in tears behind bars. My rescue plan was also doomed to failure. So I took the initiative to propose to System to give up the strategy and give up the 100 million bonus. I said that it is better to give up money than to give up my life. At this moment when I come back, I think Jason won't let me go. And Devin is the same. I looked to Evan. Jason said for us all to get out. Please move over. Evan glanced at me. The tone of his voice was icy. Anyone who wants to leave. Not including you. Stay put. After 3 years of not seeing me. Evan's dislike for me is a few points higher than before. Knowing that cornering him was like talking to a bull. I didn't waste my time and turned to Jason, who looked arrogant in the dim light. After 3 years. His arrogance hasn't been tempered. But rather, it's gotten even better. He said a few words to the person who just handed him the wine, only to see that person immediately get up and walk out with a smile. After that person left, Evan had the good sense to also walk out of the private room. In the end, Jason and I were the only ones left in the room. Jason got up and walked towards me with an air of hostility. Something that had been etched into his bones over the years. He stepped closer until he had me against the wall, then effortlessly picked me up with one hand and lifted me to a height parallel to his. It's been a long time. Mia. This time I responded to him. It's been a long time. Jason. Jason laughed happily and then without warning burst into tears. He spoke in an almost morbid tone. You're finally back in my world. Boy. With that, he made a move to kiss. But luckily I was quick enough to cover his mouth in time. Jason. I haven't seen you in 3 years. But you haven't changed a bit. You're still wandering around the borderline of the law. Do you know what happens when you force a woman to have sex against her will? Jason laughed softly and set me down. His 190 height enveloping me in a solid hug. He effortlessly took my hand that was in the way of his now the way with one hand and raised it above his head. And with his other free hand, he lit around. Stop. I opened my mouth to stop it. No way. Jason had a roguish look on his face. You've never seen a wolf let go of the meat in his hand. Seeing how shameless he was, I stood on my tiptoes and bit his white neck without hesitation. Letting him know that I'm not a piece of meat to be slaughtered. The pain made Jason hiss. The hand that was roaming around his waist stopped. And then turned up to pinch my chin. Bite again? Boy. You really haven't changed a bit. But that's okay. We have a bite stopper at home. Let's bring it along later. And if you don't behave, I'm going to tie your limbs up too. Jason couldn't hide the excitement in his tone. His body trembled slightly. I couldn't help but frown. The bite stopper. I'd been forced to use it once before. Jason likes delicate things. And according to him, ugly things defeat the purpose. So all the bite stoppers he used on my face were beautifully crafted with various color gems. They look good on the face. But they are heavy and have no mobility. Just like torture. Not to mention how hard it would be to tie up my limbs. Tape your mom. Jason. I want to leave. Let me go. Jason's eyes darkened. Licking the blood off the corner of my mouth. Opening his mouth with a bloodthirsty face. Because of negligence you left me for 3 years. Mia. Stupid mistake I will not have a second time. You forged the pregnancy certificate. It seems on very much want a child. Then we will carry one. Not difficult to be good boy. For with that said, he started doing whatever he wanted. No matter how much I reprimanded. I didn't budge. Jason knew my body well. Soon, I was getting short of breath and my brain started to run out of oxygen. I could only let him do whatever he wanted. But at the most critical moment, Jason stopped. 4 eyes. Jason face gangly. The corners of his mouth cannot be pressed. I realized how humiliated I was and looked away from Jason. But he easily corrected me. Against a woman's will. Are you sure you don't want to do this? The anger of being teased and humiliated was palpable. The desire to get back at Jason. Tie him to the bed. Feed him an aphrodisiac. And watch him go crazy grew stronger. I smiled and wrapped my arms around Jason's neck. Daintily. I spoke in his ear. Jason. The conditions here are so bad. I don't like it. Let's go home. Okay. Okay. Jason agreed with alacrity. He bent down to straighten my skirt. He didn't realize the danger that was coming. Jason tapped on the door and called out to Evan. Evan opened the door immediately. I stepped out of the room first. I was confronted by an old acquaintance, Jason, who was coming towards the VIP room. The main character's brother-in-law, the male for in the book, the son of a high cadre, changed his career to business. One of the few people who are evenly matched with Jason. Every time I have trouble, the first time to find him, he is always very good-tempered to help me cover the bottom. It can be said that Jason is the book of all men. I want to accept so the most people. And I really acted on it. I still remember the day I took advantage of the drunkenness and kissed him. It brought back memories for me. But unfortunately, I was caught by Jason. Before I could make my next move, I was pulled away. Jason was completely out of control that night, and I almost died in bed. It was clear to me that Jason was the only one who could help me get rid of Jason right now. So I decisively ran to him, pulling on his arm. "Help, Jason." Jason froze in place, disbelief in his eyes. He tentatively shouted at me, "Ms. Moo, is that you?" "It's me," I replied. "But didn't you die in a car accident?" "I didn't die. I came back to life." Jason's eyes were red. A few times, he tried to stop talking. Jason's roar of anger came from behind me. "Mia, come back. Don't make me say it again." Jason's voice was loud, and I knew it was a sign that he was panicking. Deliberately hiding behind Jason, I made a face towards Jason. "No go. What can you do to me?" Jason was so angry with me that his veins were bulging. System's desperate voice came from his ears. "Host, you really have guts. You're not going to live, are you?" You quickly coax him. I couldn't help but. It's not like I haven't died before. People live a life of pleasure is finished. There is no initiative when the commission can be. But now my back is against the tree. The initiative is in my hands. Why should I coax Jason? I prefer to do whatever I want. To be crazy everyone together crazy good. To die everyone together die good. System was silent for a long time. Spit out the sound. 6. I pretended to be scared and clamped my voice to open my mouth towards Jason. "Jason, please help me this once. I don't dare to think what will happen to me if Jason takes me away." From Jason's pupils, I saw my own tearful and pitiful face. I was sure he would take me away. But the expected nodding of Jason's head didn't happen. He asked me, "My family is pushing me to get married. Are you willing to help me? If so, I will take you back." 6. At these words, Jason's face became even darker. I frowned in displeasure and asked Jason, "Fake help? Or real marriage?" But I saw Jason's face full of seriousness. "Marriage is no child's play. There is no fake. I want to marry you. Heaven and earth can see that." I let go of my hand on Jason's arm. I took 2 steps back. Although I have a crush on Jason, I'm not so dim that I want to get married. And the Tang family was too powerful. So as long as I agreed to get married, there was no room for backtracking. One of these 2 people let a child be born and the other let a marriage take place. Both are fire pits. I'd be a retard to jump into them. I looked to Jason. At this moment the anxiety on his face has disappeared. He was staring at me as if he was watching a play. Jason knows me too well. He knows very well that if Jason makes this offer, there is no possibility for me to get married with him again. The big tree is gone. The initiative is back in Jason's hands again. For the sake of my future life, I hardened my heart and made a deal with Jason. "I can go with you. But I have a condition. From now on you are not allowed to disobey my wishes. Otherwise the marriage is not impossible." Jason snorted coldly. "Ms. Moo's face is really fast. Have you learned Sichuan opera?" I said. "You know so much about yin and yang. Have you been to a Taoist temple?" Jason's face was unperturbed, but his smiling eyes betrayed the reality that he was in a good mood. "Tell me if you can do it." Jason nodded at my urging. After receiving a satisfactory answer, I turned around and walked out, only to be pulled back by Jason. With a deep look on his face, He denied himself. It's not a lie that I want to get married. But if you don't want to, you cannot. Mia, give me a chance to let me help you. The step Jason took to back down made my heart skip half a beat. It also made Jason completely lose his mind. Jason spoke with deep eyes towards Evan. Clear the room. Evan nodded and replied, yes. Then he brought his staff and started to drive people out. I knew Jason was going to make a move after he finished clearing the area. So I stood to the side for fear of splashing blood all over me. System's sharp popping sound came from my ears. Host. You don't even stop? You are not afraid of accidents? I laughed. To be honest, I'm very cool now. Two big handsome guys for me are about to fight. With playing 3Ds be game like. Cool to death. Since you say so. Then you don't blame me. What do you mean? Just as I finished speaking, I felt like I was out of control. 7's system controlled me towards Jason. Then it forced me to kiss Jason in front of him. Jason had no problem deepening the kiss. Lips intertwined. I shouted silently in my heart. MMP. System, you're going against the grain. You don't care about Jason at all. Although my back is now facing Jason. System sighed and started to defend himself. I can't help it. Jason is a good boy. He won't go crazy. So let's just hold on to his nerves for a while. A kiss to stop. Jason wrapped his arms around my waist and looked at Jason with a provocative look on his face. Speaking in a voice Jason could hear. Mia, you are so sweet and fragrant. If not controlled by System, I think I would have just slapped Jason to death. I shouted wildly at System in my heart. Don't control me if you can. System did as he was told. I regained control of this body. The moment I turned around, only to see Jason with a broken face, like an abandoned puppy, carefully opened his mouth to ask me. Mo by you obviously. Just now also want to talk to me. Jason easily opened his mouth to interrupt Jason's words. Just now in the private room. I didn't serve Mia well. Mia got angry and made a joke to Boss Dang. Boss Dang can't take it seriously. Jason's face was pale, but his eyes were still full of expectation. It seemed that if I opened my mouth to explain, he would believe me. I opened my mouth to explain. The hand around my waist suddenly tightened. Jason's voice came from my ear, and it was so low that it sounded like it was coming from hell. Mia, Jason and you are not the same way. You want to walk the road, only I can accompany you. I snorted coldly. Don't fucking PUA me. Jason and I are on the bright side of the road. You're the only one who's creeping around in the shadows. I taftered, disliking Jason. I organized my words in my mind to explain to Jason, but before I could open my mouth, I was controlled by System again. System used the keyboard to tap out what I was going to say. Jason. As Jason said, you and I had a little falling out. And you were just a part of our play. I'm a selfish, self-interested person. I can act. It's common to see the wind at my back. You don't have to be surprised. I don't deserve you at all. Let's forget about our marriage. But it's still okay to be friends. Although I can't do it with both sides of the fence. But I'm not so to face either. Let's go. Let's make an appointment some other day. In Jason's hurt gaze, I was controlled by System to walk out the door. Jason followed closely behind. I wasn't really me until I was out of the nightclub. The heartache was very real. I turned around to go explain to Jason. Instead, Jason pulled his wrist. He spoke in a loud voice. The damage is irreparable. How are you going to explain it? Tell Jason that System controlled you. That those words were not what you thought. Why should he believe you? Mia, there is no turning back. I laughed bitterly. The man most to my liking had been hurt by me just like that. The thought of not being able to flirt with him anymore hurt my heart so much that I couldn't breathe. But it's okay. There are other handsome men waiting for me. The road ahead is still bright. Outside the club, the Maybach was waiting at the door early. Jason opened the door for me. Get in. I followed Jason's instructions. Once seated, He spoke to Evan in the driver's seat. Dr. Eve. The engine rattled in response and the fender went up in water. By the time I felt something was wrong, it was too late. Jason grabbed me around the waist with one hand and lifted me up easily, skillfully spreading my legs so that I was straddling his lap. I reached out to push him. Instead, he easily grabbed my wrists in one hand and imprisoned me at the waist. There was nowhere to run in the small space, and I was plastered solidly against Jason. What are you doing? Not against my will? Of course you are. Mia. You're selfish and can act. How can I not? How can I take what I promised you seriously? Boy. 9. Jason got right to the point, aggressively prying my closed teeth open with his tongue. He began to attack. The words I cursed were gagged and crashed into whimpers. The Maybach spun aimlessly around S-Town for the rest of the night. The small space made the already tired movement even more exhausting. I was dizzy and uncomfortable, awake and uncomfortable, only to give in and beg for mercy first. Jason. Let me go. I can't. He took a few seconds out of his busy schedule to reply to me. You can't, you're on the bottom. I can, I'm on. Me. 10. It wasn't until dawn that Jace let Evan go back to the villa, and I was finally able to sleep in my bed. Birth control pills. Sleepy as hell. I braced myself to spit out those 3 words. The words had an immediate effect. Jason's hand that was tucking me in froze, and the air pressure around me watered down. Seeing Jason's silence, I then spoke. Jason. Isn't this an old rule of ours? You don't wear a condom. I take the pill. I'm the one who loses out. Okay. The words just fell. Jason lay down next to me, embracing me in his arms. Dying. The medicine at home has expired. Or I won't take it this time. I raised my leg and gave Jason a kick. The medicine has expired. But your children and grandchildren have not expired. Go and buy it. Or really pregnant. I will marry Jason. Let the child call him daddy. Buy one get one free deal, I think he will not refuse. I blurted out. Exasperated, Jason said 3 yeses in a row. Mia. You're doing great. Thanks for the compliment. Jason got up and headed out the door. Afraid that he wouldn't listen to me, I couldn't help but urge him. Remember to wake me up when you're back from the store. I'm going to eat it quickly. Got it. Jason agreed with some resentment and exited the room. Sleepiness overtook me, and I fell asleep. In a daze, I heard System's voice. The body is DOWN and the heart is still 100,000 miles away. This can't be good. I'm going to make a move. Hearing that, I almost blurted out. You dare to mess up. I'll poison Jason and make the plot fall apart. So everyone dies together. But the sound of footsteps in my ears after I said that made me feel like I was stabbed in the back by System once again. Then Jason's voice called out to me in my ears. Mia. It was a moment of complete clarity. And I wasn't sure how much Jason had heard. Nor was I sure if Jason would preemptively poison me for my words. I woke up with a start only to see Jason sitting on the edge of the bed with medicine in one hand and water in the other. I looked at him critically for a moment, but saw that he was looking as usual. Unimpressed. Drink your medicine. 17. I sat up and surveyed the post Jason handed me. This is a birth control pill. Isn't it? Don't you fool me with a vitamin C tablet. Jason looked speechless. I don't really want my kid calling someone else daddy. I was relieved to hear him say that. I drank water and swallowed the pill. Seeing me finish, Jason calmly took the glass of water from my hand and put it on the table, speaking softly. Sleep some more. I was so sleepy. I didn't talk to him politely, and shrunk back under the covers, and went back to sleep. Half asleep. Jason's helpless voice drifted over. I'm fine with poison, as long as you don't hurt yourself and live well. Hearing this, I just wanted to laugh. My feelings for Jason were half a lie, half a cajole. And his feelings for me were half hate and half coercion. We both counted on each other. True love is too noble for both of us. Now he's saying this just to make me soften my heart, and forget about his evil behavior in the car. Unfortunately, I'm vindictive. It wasn't going to be easy. Stop pretending. Man. These deep words are not your lines. Your PUA skills need to be improved. Get the hell out of here. You're making me sleep. Jason was silent for a while and eventually got up to leave. System's voice came from his ear at an opportune time. Host. Haven't you ever doubted that your intuition is wrong? In case Jason really likes you. And what he said is the truth. What a wonderful promise. How come you can't get into it? System mumbled a bunch. I just feel noisy. Cannot endure a little. Directly open the microphone. You also roll. System seconds back. Okay. Then offline. There are times when I really feel that System is the napping of most people. Do not scold, not happy. 9 When I woke up. It was dark. Jason was sitting on a couch not far away. The light from the floor to ceiling windows hitting his back. The whole thing was indescribably lonely. Seeing me awake. He got up to turn on the light. The blinding light made me subconsciously lower my head. In looking up, Jason had already arrived in front of me. He naturally rubbed my already messy hair. What do you want to eat? I guffawed. Out. I need to shop. Jason agreed readily, and didn't ask what to buy. He didn't even realize the danger that was coming. After eating out, I asked Jason to drive me to the drugstore. And Jason raised his hand to my forehead. Where are you feeling sick? I'll take you to the hospital. I pushed his hand away. I'm not uncomfortable. I'm just trying to make you feel bad. Jason smiled bitterly. Then you should go to the pesticide store. I didn't comment. When I got out of the car, I told Jason to stay in the car honestly, and then got out to buy the aphrodisiac. The store manager was shocked when he saw the pills I took. You bought too many. No, I had no choice but to pick the most potent one. The store manager poked his head out the door while speaking curiously. Isn't it hard to coax the gold master? Jason was driving a Porsche today. And I'm good looking. So it's hard not to think that I'm buying drugs for the not so good gold master. I paid the store manager. I'm the gold master. The one outside is my driver. This medicine is for my brother who maintains it. Don't think that only men are rich. Dispel this wrong thought of yours. Saying that, I turned around and left. Got into the Porsche. After arriving home, I rummaged through the box to find the assorted QQ supplies Jason bought. Tied him to the bed. Jason did not resist. Obediently let me tie. He knows very well that yesterday in the car. Sooner or later I have to take it out on him. I wanted to bring Jason a bite stopper. But it's not the right size. In the end, I could only put on his ears and tail. Then I pulled out 3 pills, and shoved them into Jason's mouth. Watched him swallow them. Then I sat down on the couch and waited for the pills to kick in. Soon Jason began to struggle. The leather rope was ripped off with his muffled grunts. I didn't think it would hold him. The torture was more mental than physical. Jason came towards me after breaking free of all restraints. When he was about 2 meters away from me, I shouted to stop. I advise you to stop walking. Jason stopped in his tracks. In a hoarse voice, he spoke. Did it feel good? I asked back. Did you have fun? Jason laughed softly and laid himself down on the couch. I don't know how long he kept himself up. In the end, I fell asleep. Between half asleep and half awake, Jason's doting and helpless voice came from my ear. Are you still mad at me? I'm not angry anymore. I was too sleepy to speak, and could only reply in my heart. 10 After a few days together, I found Jason's mood has been very stable. I asked System to let me go back. System refused outright. He will definitely go crazy if you leave. I can't stay here for the rest of my life. System, stay for a few more days. It's already running. I don't believe System's bullshit. Yet there was nothing to do. Jason put off all his work and stayed with me. He followed me every day, serving me tea and water, without a care in the world. Let me have no personal space at all. So much so that I was a bit annoyed. I directly picked up. In fact, you can go to busy business. Jason shook his head. Making you fall in love with me is the only business I have. I rolled my eyes. This kind of inexplicable words came out of Jason's mouth, and I just felt weird. 11 When I saw Jason again. It was at the wedding banquet of the hero and heroine. Jason was dressed up as the hero's brother-in-law. But he was extremely haggard. But he was incredibly haggard. The moment he saw me, he smiled politely at me. I returned the smile. But I didn't think that we could end our feud with a smile. I was the one Jason brought with him. So I sat next to the main table. Jason had specially chosen a seat for me where I could see Jason when I raised my eyes. Shame on him for desensitizing me. But I think he needs to be desensitized more than I do. As soon as I saw Jason, this careful man immediately turned into a sensitive muscle. The wedding of the hero and heroine was grand. Seeing the beautiful Zhu Qingyi, I couldn't help but ask Jason, "Don't you want to go to the wedding? That's your white moonlight." When he was in school, Zhu Qingyi was a shining light and Jason had a crush on her for 3 years. Jason had a crush on her for 3 years. And then he tried to get into the same university as Zhu Qingyi. The two of them could have started a separate book. Beautiful schoolboy white flower x sickly girl. But Jason is the second male, destined not to have this fate. According to the original text, Zhu Qingyi married the male lead, the son of the mayor of S City, a police officer. Even if Jason loves white moonlight very much, he can only let go. After all, what he did could not withstand the police male lead's careful investigation. Jason's thin lips slightly opened. I never had any white moonlight. Black moonlight to have one. Mia want to guess who? My heartbeat missed a beat. Only to hear Jason then speak. Mia. Marriage? Your wedding is only as good as this. It can't be worse. I didn't doubt the truth of Jason's statement. But it's just fiction. And I have to go back to my world eventually. Getting married won't do me or him any good. You're drunk before you've even had a drink? Jason smiled bitterly and drank the red wine in front of him. 12 The wedding was over. Jason found me while Jason was being called away by Dawn's father to talk about something. Pulled me down to the deserted balcony. He hugged me with one hand. He said, "Mia, I can accept everything about you. Just come with me. Okay? You're not happy with Jason." I inwardly OS. Other than not being able to go home, it's actually quite happy. After all, a lot of perverted ideas Jason can fulfill for me. I pushed Jason away. I teased you first. I'm a jerk. I apologize. I'm sorry. But it's not going to happen between us. I'm going to go now. Jason will go crazy if we take too long. When it comes to Jason, Jason doesn't bother him anymore. He let me go. Shortly after I left the balcony, Jason came out of the booth. He naturally took my hand, asking me, "Do you love me, Mia?" I hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. "Love." Jason smiled a forced smile and spoke in a roguish manner. "Then give me a kiss." I stood on my tiptoes and dropped a kiss on the corner of his mouth. Only then did his brows stretch. He pulled me out of the hotel. It was a crazy night for Jason. Crazier than when I got caught kissing Jason. By the end of the night I was hoarse from shouting. He still didn't stop. I don't know how long I slept. I woke up. The sunlight outside the window was just right. Sprinkled on the jasmine flowers in front of the window. A fragrance wafted. I got up, washed up, and went downstairs. Evan huffed and puffed towards me, holding out his cell phone for me to see. 13 It's all over the internet. Jason turned himself in. Tears slipped uncontrollably. Evan looked disgusted. What are you pretending to do? If you don't persuade Jason to turn himself in, the police won't be able to find those things. If you don't persuade Jason to turn himself in, the police won't be able to find him. You're such a bitch. Why did you come back? Why did you come back? I asked myself again and again. Finally, I got the answer. I came back because Jason wanted to see me. He wants to see me again by taking his life. That's why system dragged me back. He knew that loving me and letting me go were in conflict. And Jason's instincts couldn't see me leave him. That's why he drew the line and imprisoned himself. If he can't get out, he can't go crazy. And my mission was accomplished. By now, System's voice was ringing in his ears. Congratulations to the host on the completion of his mission. He has received 5 times the reward. 500 million. Please choose the time to die as soon as possible. 14 Jason was put on trial. 3 years in prison. I will leave. Everyone will leave. The only person left with him is Evan. And I went to see Jason before he died. He was shaved. Just like the first time I saw him. He was speechless. Jason looked at me quietly. And I looked at him. Until the police rushed me away. Jason opened his mouth and asked me, "Do you love me, Mia?" He had asked me this question at the wedding that day. My answer was, love. But that was because I sensed something was wrong with Jason. And I thought that answer would help me. So I lied to him. In hindsight, it worked. Jason turned himself in because of my words. But now I didn't want to lie to him. I didn't answer. Jason smiled bitterly. Then spoke. Go home in peace. Since you don't like to stay by my side, I won't force you. I won't go crazy this time. I'll set you free. I just felt like there were 1,000 words I wanted to say. But all that came out was, thank you. 14. When I got home, I was very sick. I couldn't tell you how congested I felt. I tried to contact System to find out how Jason was doing. But I couldn't reach him. If it wasn't for the cold $500 million in the card, I would have to doubt that I have not raided Jason. I took the 500 million and traveled around the world. Every time I saw a figure similar to Jason, I went up to him and shouted, Jason. After a long time, my girlfriends thought I had hit a bad spot. She even got me a ferry. But it didn't work. Next time I still subconsciously call out to Jason. And the symptom lasted for almost 3 years. Then my girlfriend realized. She said I was lonely. She said I was lonely and wanted to find a handsome guy. She took me to the most famous nightclub. She ordered a lot for me. Male models came in one after another. My best friend asked, do you have a favorite? I shook my head. Then another batch. She repeats, do you have a favorite? I shook my head. With only wine in my eyes. I don't know if I had too much to drink. But I saw a male model in the corner who wanted to meet Jason. And I raised my hand to signal him to come over. I raised my hand and motioned for him to come over. My best friend had the good sense to take the rest of the guys out. When she left, she instructed the Jason lookalike to take care of me. How would you like to play, Ms.? The handsome man got straight to the point. I froze for a split second when I heard him speak. Not only did he look like me, but he sounded like me too. Can I play any way I want? I'm afraid I'll scare you. He touched my face and kissed me lightly on the lips. I haven't seen any of your tricks before, Mia. I'm not afraid. Tears fell like rain. I sobbed uncontrollably and jumped into Jason's arms. Jason. I love you. Jason gently stroked my back and whispered in my ear. I love you too. End of story. I threatened System with the lies of people around me to bring Mia back. And System agreed. System agreed. Mia came back. But I could sense that she was unhappy and wanted to go home. So I asked System again. That is to let me go to Mia's world. System refused. Because he couldn't control Mia's time. And it would all fall apart if he wasn't careful. Again I threatened everyone's lives. System agreed again. And it called me shameless. I don't care. I can be with Mia. I can be scolded any way I want. But it said there was one condition for going to Mia's world. Mia must love me. Love is the passage through time and space. But Mia doesn't love me. At best. She craves my body. Love has nothing to do with it. So I started laying the groundwork. From taking pills all the time to calm her anger, to accompany her day after day. Let her get used to my presence. Then to the wedding to give her a sense of security. I never liked Shu Qingyi. But none of this works. What really worked were my words in jail. You go home in peace. Since you don't like to stay by my side, I won't force you. I won't go crazy this time. I'll set you free. Mia believed it. She was touched. But she didn't know that what I said was a lie. I will never give Mia her freedom. I want her by my side forever. Till death do us part.